Guys, these eggless brownies are so fudgy, dense and moist. You wouldn't want to miss this recipe. Let's get started. We are first going to set up a double boiler. So take a pot, fill it with some water and place a heat resistant bowl in it. This is a Pyrex bowl, so it's not going to crack. Make sure that the base of the bowl does not touch the water. Into this, we are going to add half a cup of milk chocolate morsels, save a little bit for later, and half a cup of dark chocolate morsels, also save a little bit for later. Next, we are going to add half a stick, which is 4 tablespoons of butter. If the butter is salted, add a quarter teaspoon of salt. If it's unsalted, add half a teaspoon of salt. Next, add a quarter cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. And a secret ingredient to make the brownies nice and moist and fudgy is to add 3 teaspoons of neutral or flavorless cooking oil. Don't forget that, guys, it's very important. Adding the butter in small cubes would have been a smart thing to do. I'm going to cut it now because this is going to take forever to melt. Very soon you're going to have this absolutely smooth and glossy and chocolatey paste that is going to make your brownies taste divine. Let's set this aside. And now would be the time to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius. Alright, into a large bowl we are going to add 1 cup of plain unsweetened yogurt. Make sure the yogurt is at room temperature and it's not too sour. Next, you're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract and half a cup of white granulated sugar. If you want a more caramelized taste in your brownie, you can also add half brown sugar and half white sugar. Whisk the yogurt vigorously till there are no clumps and there are air bubbles like that. Next, we're going to add in that delicious chocolate paste that we made, and that should have cooled down a little bit by now. If you're new to my channel, guys, consider subscribing for yummy recipes like this every week. If you prefer written recipes, I also have a blog called nupursindiankitchen.com, so check that out as well. Whisk thoroughly so the entire mixture looks nice and homogeneous. Next, we are going to sift in half a cup of all-purpose flour and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. If you're making brownies with eggs, you don't need any baking powder, but when you're making eggless brownies, we do need some. Fold the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients gently using the cut and fold method. And when you see no major pockets of dry ingredients remaining, give it a quick whisk and get a smooth batter. Don't over whisk, guys, if not the brownies are going to be super dense. And before we forget, let's add in the remaining chocolate morsels that we saved up. Don't we love those little chocolatey pockets inside brownies, right? And this is an 8-inch square baking pan that I greased and lined with parchment paper. In hindsight, I would also grease the parchment paper with some butter before adding the batter in because these brownies tend to stick a little. The batter is not very runny, so we will have to spread it evenly with our spatula. We will tap it a few times and we are ready to put it into the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius. And guys, after 30 minutes of baking, you're going to find that the edges have turned slightly hard, but the center still feels soft. This would be the time to take it out of the oven. Underbaking the brownie a little bit is very important to get that fudgy texture. So I just took the brownie out of the oven and you can see that the center is still soft and the sides feel slightly hard. One important point is to let the brownie cool down completely before cutting it. Because as it cools, you see the texture changes and now the whole thing feels so fudgy. The whole process of cooling down the brownie helps it set really well. If you cut it beforehand, it's going to feel like a gooey mess. Well, if you like that, that's great, but let it cool down and then you cut in and you're going to see, And guys, how does that look? Doesn't it look super moist and chocolatey and fudgy? My mouth is watering. I'm going to make these again. I can't wait for you to try these. I'm cutting them into 4 monster-sized pieces, but you can totally get about 9 to 12 pieces out of this brownie recipe. Do try it, guys. Do let me know how you like it, and I'm going to be eagerly waiting for your comments. Okay. See you next week. Bye-bye.